what happened was after the first week of rehearsals, because of course we had this luxury of rehearsing, which was amazing. Um, Funnily enough, Tony Selby kept saying, he said, "Oh, Ace would make such a good companion. Oh, yeah, I think Ace would be really great." Um, and I was a bit sort of like, because I was sworn to secrecy, of course, and I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, Bonnie hasn't left yet, because she hadn't said whether she was going or staying, I don't think. Although, funny, talking to her now, she said she didn't think there was an option. She just thought that you just did however many stories and that was it. But I think she was fine about going. But they hadn't quite finalized it that first week, so I had to keep quiet. And of course, they didn't know if I'd get on with Sylvester or what we'd be like together. And I think after that first week, everyone just went, "Oh yeah," because then we got into studio, and after the first day, I remember walking out for the first time in front of the camera in this massive studio with these great big screens hanging around the ceiling, and the camera just looked me up and down like this, and then could see my face massive on these screens, and everyone was just sort of looking at the screens. They weren't looking at me going, yeah, yeah. It's so funny, like being judged like by everybody there. It was quite funny, really. And after that first day's filming, everybody went, and they said, "Sophie, could you stay for a minute?" And so I stayed on the set, and I could hear this cling, 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 cling as John came down the metal steps at the side of the studio from the gallery. And he came towards me and lit up, and he said, "Well, darling," he said, "we're on if you're on." And I took that to mean, right, it's the goer. And then very soon after that, they had to obviously hastily write this exit scene. And Sylvester it was just going to be, because originally it was written that Ace would go off with Glitz, and obviously Mel would stay with the Doctor. So they had to hastily write, because Sylvester said, "I can't just say bye and she's gone. I've been with her for all this time." And then that's when Andrew Cartmel and Ian Briggs got together literally in the tea bar outside the studio, and came up with that beautiful last scene for them, which was it was based on the screen test that Sylvester had done with Janet Fielding for his screen test. It was a goodbye to a companion, and he really had loved that. So he said, I want something like that.
So you say you didn't do a screen test. So when did you first meet Sylvester, and what input did he have in terms of you two working together?
Yeah, I first met him on our first read through. So I arrived at the rehearsal studios in a place called North Acton, and there was this big block of a big sort of tower block, and it had inside these massive rehearsal spaces. I mean, it was a wonderful place. And I found the Doctor Who room and walked in, and there was this table right across the other side of the room. I walked over to this table, and there's Sylvester and Bonnie, and there's Pat Quinn, and there's Tony Asoba, and there's all these people I'd seen on telly, and there was little me. Nobody knew who I was. And I sat down sort of like behind everybody else, and everyone went round and introduced themselves. Nobody paid me any attention. Anyway, halfway through the script, people started turning around and looking at me, realizing I'd got rather a large part. And in fact, that's what Pat Quinn said to me at the end. She said, "Oh, darling, you've got a large part, haven't you?" Anyway, and at some point then I was introduced to everybody, to Sylvester. I can't quite remember, but we did get on like a house on fire straight away. And we found out we had the same birthday, and we had very similar-ish background in doing kind of fringe theatre and working men's clubs. And we had the same ideas about politics and the world, and we just hit it off straight away. And and he says it's because I'm the only person who laughs at all his jokes. That's
I'm sure
why
that's
we
not
don't.
true.
I don't think it's true at all. But I do kind of, I don't know, I do get Sylvester. And he's still one of my very closest friends.